Kung Fu Panda started development in 2004 and was not announced to the public until later that year. It was initially intended to be a spoof, like many of the films in the Dork era, but co-director John Stevenson did not like the idea and decided to take a more character-driven, wuxia comedy approach. Stephen Chow's martial arts drawings that were made in 2004 were used as inspiration for the directors to capture the essence of Chinese paintings, sculptures, architecture, and the culture overall, especially in the aspect of Kung Fu. Animating the film was a whole nother challenge for DreamWorks, since the style that they were going for was more complex than anything their systems have done prior. In order to prepare for the challenge, the crew took a 6-hour Kung Fu class. The film starts with our main character named Po dreaming about being a part of the Furious Five, while his father wants him to continue the family tradition of running the noodle shop. Of course though, Po wants more. At the Kung Fu training facility, Chi Fu is told by Oogway, who has visions, that former student Tai Lung has escaped prison to take the scroll. This causes the tournament to be held for the entire village to see, which Po of course wants to see for himself. Through an attempt to finally see the Furious Five in action, Po flies himself to the tournament and ends up landing where Oogway is pointing to deem the next Dragon Warrior. This means that Po is designated as the Dragon Warrior, to everyone's chagrin, and they want him to put the 54 hours. Po deals with training and the scrutiny of not only Shifu, but the Furious Five as he fails over and over again. Despite their attempts to get him to quit, Po wants to stick it out. While all this takes place, Tai Lung escapes prison. We get to hear the backstory of how Shifu saw Tai Lung as a son while growing up, but the latter was too obsessed with power, which was why Oogway refused to give him the scroll. Tai Lung was arrested for trying to take it by force and attacking Shifu. Shifu reaches his breaking point with Po and goes to Oogway for advice before passing away, telling him that Po is the right choice. There is a revelation that Po can actually make some decent moves while using food as some sort of placebo. So this leads to Shifu and Po finally getting somewhere to proceed in training, though it is clearly rushed as the third act starts right afterward. The Furious Five decides to go and defeat Tai Lung themselves, but end up being defeated themselves. Once they return to the palace, Shifu decides to give Po the scroll, only for everyone to be shocked when it is revealed to be nothing. This just means that there's no secret ingredient to being great, which Po's father reiterates later on. Shifu tells them to escort the village away for him and Tai Lung to have a final battle, which is very emotional. While he was about to get killed, Po shows up and Tai Lung ends up fighting him. Upset that the scroll is revealed to be nothing, he lashes out and is defeated by Po. The film ends with Po having the respect of the entire village, the Furious Five, and his trainer as the Dragon Warrior. What instantly stood out to me was the world building and the tender detail to incorporate Chinese culture in the film. And they actually utilized it properly, unlike Shark Tale. We see paintings, sculptures, antiques, symbols, and even the movements as a representation, which only showed how seriously they took the appropriation. The soundtrack is simply brilliant. While there was not any songs in the film, the score holds its own completely, ranging from the lighthearted comedic scenes to the intense battle and emotional scenes. The Chinese instrumental sounds were so beautiful, and seeing something different with the hot score was so refreshing. For once there were no stupid pop songs or scores, and it was so nice. The main strength in my eyes, outside of the animation, music, and characters, is the overall message. This message contains that there's no special ingredient to make a person successful, and being special does not matter, since every individual is the one dealing with their own experiences. I feel like there is so much emphasis on being special due to media, which is a falsity since human culture is based off of repeated experiences and lessons, but as long as we are confident in our own selves as individuals, there's no need to be special or different, as we all have our own adventures and avenues to success and fulfillment. While this film is great, I do have a gripe with it, and it isn't really a small one either. I get that there needs to be plot points that transition from act to act and scene to scene, but the way this film handled some of the transitions were not good. The main example of this is when Po starts to become his own in regards to Kung Fu because of using food as a placebo. It all just goes so quickly to the point where it doesn't really feel like the training was a journey, but something they needed to do quickly, and without a montage to excuse it, just to move on to the third act. It is very rushed. A very minor one is that I wish that there was more done with some of the supporting characters, mostly the Furious Five. They were just kind of there, and there wasn't really a strong dynamic whatsoever in the film. When the film was released on early June of 2008, it topped the box office, performing a lot better than analysts were expecting at the time, and being the highest opening DreamWorks original film at the time. Kung Fu Panda ended up grossing $215 million domestically and $415 million overseas, adding up to a worldwide amount of $631 million. It was the highest grossing non-Shrek film at the time. When films are released in China that incorporate their culture, there is usually some backlash and controversy. But this didn't really happen with this film, as it blew China away, and they ended up loving it more than North America did themselves. Critically, people were claiming that it was still humorous, which is what people expected from the company at the time, but were shocked with the amount of heart and depth the movie carried. It was debatably the most popular film in the canon at the time. I have to address another film that came out a few weeks later, since there were automatic comparisons, and they went toe-to-toe in the awards season, and that film is WALL-E. They were nominated for the same award, and both were seen as the magnum opus of their respective studios, so people were wondering which one would come out on top. With the Academy Awards, Academy Pixar Award, WALL-E dominated. At the Annies, Kung Fu Panda shockingly won every single award over WALL-E, which was unheard of. The controversy about this involves people accusing this being an inside job done by Katzenberg to buy all the ASFIA Hollywood memberships for the studio to vote for Kung Fu Panda. Whether this is true or not, it says that Kung Fu Panda's win with the Annies was tainted with this scandal. Around the time this film was released, the company was preparing for the 10-year anniversary since the first film was released, where they have already went through several roller coasters during that time frame. With their big success in the award season, it was reminiscent to the days of Shrek and some of their earlier films, which they of course capitalized on to turn into their third franchise. People were starting to forgive the company for their immediate predecessors, which were forgettable at best and horrendous at worst. This was also around the time where Katzenberg and company were slowly working to branch their films into television shows and other forms of media, which would take a few years in the making. With the success of this film, it only increased the formula of releasing 2 to 3 films a year that was inhibited from the dork age, since they have the success to back it up this time. It was refreshing to see a film inhibit and have an established culture, setting, and theme that's developed throughout in every facet, and to have a unique sense of humor, especially since it did not revolve or tie around a bunch of pop culture references that were unneeded. Po is a really relatable character, and while his plot isn't the most unique, and could have been executed a bit better, natural charm more than makes up for it. I appreciate the amount of research that went into this film. Another thing I want to address that has been a common theme or challenge for this company is its lack of identity, or its struggle to find a consistent identity. Earlier, they were seen as trying to copy Disney in the eyes of the public, and then they were trying to copy Shrek in the middle 2000s with every single film they released. But now with this film, they started to gain some sort of traction with an identity. This identity was about being confident in your weird and quirky self, which not many have really executed and done to the extent that DreamWorks have in the past. It also shows that everyone has their different versions of such fairy tale happily ever after, and that everyone deserves to be happy, which Disney and other companies somehow missed the mark on in that regard. The end of the 2000s was definitely looking up for the company, as animation in general was starting to be taken a lot more seriously with the increase in social media. DreamWorks was finally able to get some non-Shrek franchises off the ground, and their original work became a lot more successful as well.